Welcome friends. In the today discussion of Infinity IS Academy, in the ecogeny section, we are going to see why the railway budget, which was separate until 2017, is now merged into the general budget. So very important discussion that why the long practice of a separate budget merged into general budget. So it was a long duration, 24 to 2017, that 92 years there was a separate budget presented of Indian Railways. And why it was then separate and why it has become now part of general budget. That's the main discussion today we had in our front. So that time what happened? Initially you may be knowing that British are a private capitalist and then the railway is also built by the private companies. So there are three different private companies were running the railways in India. But later for different purpose, government acquired them and bought them under the government control. But then they worried that railway finances may become the burden on the general finances. And therefore they thought that better to keep the railway budget separate. When Ackworth committee accordingly suggested, and from the 1924, the separate budget is presented for the railway. Because if railway make a losses, they don't want to pay it from the general budget and they compromise on their own revenues in the India. That was the real purpose behind it. And then practice continued for a long time in the India. So 1924, the first such budget was presented. One Ackworth committee, worth noting for the exam point of view, has suggested this. The step prescribed by the committee comprising the now recently Bibek Deviroy and Kishore Desai की जो समिति थी, they have prescribed that better we should go for the merging of the both. Even Niti Aayog has given a similar recommendation for it. So it has become earlier a fiefdom when there was a separate budget. It has become the fiefdom of some regional parties, especially in the coalition politics. Regional party members like Mamata Banerjee, Lalu Prasad Yadav, Nitish Kumar, they mainly held this portfolio. And then, not to say separately, many a time it has been used to give the goodies to the people, political handouts. And so the economic interest of the railways was put secondary to the political interest of handful leaders. And of course, even their image building is a concern into it. So then railways, no surprise, came in the losses and suffered a lot. And overall the railway as like India's infrastructure backbone also suffered in the journey. So it's more misuse than a use of a railway ministry that happened in the past in the country. So now finally, one nation, one budget, that we have come to the conclusion into it. So there is no constitutional legal requirement for separate railway budget. So interestingly, neither constitutional compulsion was there, neither was legal there. It was just a practice which has continued for so many years. And so now finally it has been given up. So of course there are some concerns. If you merge the budgets, then commercial character of the railway can be lost. After all, railway is a business. It should work commercially viably and also make a profit. But suppose it becomes like any other government department, then as you know, the government department is supposed to be in the deficit. Deficit hota hai यानी. Well, profit loss is the language of a commercial enterprises. अभी थोड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग इशू है कि पहले तो हम मान देते थे कि रेलवे लॉस में है, अभी तो डेफिसिट में बोलेंगे. तो डेफिसिट एक अलग आइडिया है, लॉस एक अलग आइडिया है. दे आर टू डिफरेंट आइडियाज टोटली. So their character will become like every other department of government and they may actually go in the losses. So commercial character could be lost is one of the issue. Like then privatization plans will become more difficult now with the railway directly becoming a part of the government, because then there will be strong opposition from the employees, which is already going on, may happen. Like the losses remain hidden in the general budget. अभी क्या है कि यानी it was earlier separate budget, we can clearly see the losses mounting, but now being a part of general budget they remain hidden. जैसे पोस्टल डिपार्टमेंट है, बहुत सारे लॉसेस करता है पर किसी को दिखता नहीं है. देयर इज नो डिस्कशन ऑल्सो हैपन मच बिकॉज द रिमेन हिडन इन द जनरल बजट. सेम में हैपन विद द रेलवे, दैट कंसर्न इज बिन देयर. बट ओवरऑल वी कैन से दैट इट इज बेस्ट फॉर द मल्टीमोडल ट्रांसपोर्ट प्लानिंग दैट वी इंडिया वी वांट टू हैव. लाइक so what is multimodal transport planning is that earlier when the railway was a separate ministry, it has like own plans which do not converge with the other ministries like a transport ministry, water transport ministry, and so everybody is doing differently. Some port is there, but then there is no railway up to that point. Railway थी ही नहीं है, और रेलवे यहाँ आई थी पर वहाँ पे पोर्ट ही नहीं है. सो जहाँ पे पोर्ट है वहाँ पे रेलवे नहीं, जहाँ पे रेलवे है वहाँ पे पोर्ट नहीं है, दोनों है तो रास्ते नहीं है, नो रोड्स। तो इस तरह की प्लानिंग करेंगे तो नो सरप्राइज इंडियन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर विच इज ऑलरेडी इन द shortage has further suffered into it. So there's a need to have the multimodal transport planning. At a time there should be like a connectivity given in terms of railway, road, airports and the ports. So that could be better done when the railway become part of the general budget, and there only this type of planning is possible. So only after scrapping a separate railway budget this is possible now. Functional autonomy of the railway will be maintained. That's a promise by the finance minister. Autonomy will be maintained. It has been said now, since the gross budgetary support from it is possible from exchequer, railway can think of expansion. Otherwise, what happened in India, that when the British left the country, approximately 53,000 kilometers की railway छोड़ गए. Over the period of time, India achieved up to say 73,000 kilometer railway तक की achieve कर ली हमने. But not a substantial achievement. Most of the railway we are using is built by basically by British, and railway is one particular angle which failed to expand because of the lack of money and the losses they made. And from general budget, it not become possible to support them because separate budget is as good as a separate government, having their own separate identity and ideas. Now no pressure is there to give dividend. Earlier there is a pressure to give dividend to the government. Even वो भी नहीं रहेगा. And railway is no more the most important ministry. ये भी एक सही बात है यार. एक ज़माने में जब सेपरेट बजट था तब lot of money of the government depend upon railways. Today there is a defense ministry which is bigger than railway. There is a rural development ministry which is bigger than the railways. Then why only railway has a separate budget, why not other ministries? Or technically you should make a separate budget of all ministries then, suppose. Why only railways have a separate ministry? So over the period of time, the whole idea has become illogical and unnecessary, and even the whole work of preparing a budget, presenting it, making feel good factor all the time, this all is not necessary now. That's been an advantage in bringing together the railway budget into the general budget. And so some people talk about a separate agriculture budget to be presented in the country, and they think it's something advanced idea. But then if you see the all discussion, you'll come to clear that separate agriculture budget will be done. It will come in trouble like railways, and all number of issues that railway suffered will be also suffered by agriculture. So though agriculture should be supported and the backbone of economy, it's okay, but a separate budget ideas are not correct, we can say. I hope you got the idea today and it will be useful to you. Thank you.